All right, here it is. The very last Patreon upload of the very last episode that has an extended cut. Yeah, this is on the final part of the trilogy that I helped fix, which is this is on Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, which overall in retrospect is probably his best movie. It's probably his best one. And even then we have major problems with it. I did say in the episode that I think Dawn of the Dead is the best one. I think this is the best one. It's the most cohesive. It's the most well shot. It has a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot to like in this one. I don't care for the 4-hour length, but I think you could trim this down in a fan edit. I think overall, looking back at this is like a post-mortem. Like, what was all this Zack Snyder superhero thing supposed to be about? It's like I will say, while I don't like his vision, it is a vision, which is better than I can say about Marvel stuff, which is that they just feel like movies made by committee, that four-corner filmmaking method. And sometimes that works. Sometimes I'm okay with that. But in this regard, I think that making the films like this so dark and so grim and the libertarian stuff, it really hurt the overall feel of these movies. And then DC going through its massive shift, and Warner Brothers having a massive shift, and David Zaslav getting to be put in charge of Warner Brothers. It's just a huge mess afterwards. And yeah, I mean, and also if it wasn't for COVID, this movie wouldn't even exist, because they needed products. They needed something to put out. But overall, it's fine. It's fine. I've watched this movie occasionally, and it kind of works as a standalone film. Overall, you don't have to watch the rest of the franchise to enjoy this one. I mean, I will say we were robbed of some stuff. I mean, there's some great casting. Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill as Superman. I just wish that these movies were better use of their talent. And looking back at this whole thing, it's like it really just boils down to, what if Superman was evil? It's like, well, we've already had that. We've seen that a dozen times. Superman 3 did that. What if Superman was evil? It's like, we've seen it, and it's not that interesting. And also The Boys is pretty much doing that now. The Boys is just killing it. It's showing you what Superman would be like if he was evil. So it just feels like a moot point. But yeah, this is the last of the Patreon uploads. This is the last of the extended cuts. And it just going back through all these episodes that we've made, it's just like, man, we made so much content over the course of 5 years. So many movies, so many TV shows, so many episodes. It's really amazing. It's a shame it's coming to an end. I mean, we're going to continue it in like an interview format. I'm going to interview people that are part of the film and television business, and even part of the comic book business. But in terms of ongoing film-based content, we're probably going to be calling it quits for a bit until maybe people's schedules settle. For now, this is probably the last of the ongoing uploads. There is still one more Split the Difference episode coming out. There's still that. And then that'll be it. So here it is, the final part of the trilogy, the ending of the Patreon uploads. Here is the extended Patreon cut of the film rescue for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Enjoy.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Film Rescue Show. I'm your Pitchmaster General, Seth. Today I am joined by Jesse and Byron. Hello, gentlemen.
Kill me.
Hello.
And today we are discussing the much anticipated Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I don't have to tell you who the director is because it's in the title.
Yeah.
We've been looking forward to this one for a while. This was, we swore that we were done after we did Justice League with Nick Berger, but then Zack Snyder turned around and said, "Hey guys, I've got 4 hours of movie for you."
Well, more like the fans turned around and said, "Hey, Warner Brothers, get off your asses and give us this movie."
Yeah.
There is actually a credit in the end credits that says, "Thank you to all the fans that helped make this film possible."
Yes, there is.
There is.
I saw that.
This is going to be a different one. Normally, we start off with positives, we go into negatives, and then we get into the pitch. I'm going to kind of just open this up because I feel like we will have many thoughts on the film, and I'm going to probably be darting back and forth between things I did and didn't like. Also, the production behind this is as much of a story, if not more of a story, than what's in the actual film. So I'm going to say open season. All of us have, as of 5 minutes ago, watched the whole film, all 4 hours and 2 minutes. I watched all through the final credits, enough to see John Bogdanov was shouted out.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. So I was like, didn't he take a dump on this movie when we did the Steel episode?
Yeah! Friend of the show, John Bogdanov. That was cool to see. I was happy to see it.
He wasn't like maligning Snyder or the film and stuff. He's more like, the people at DC do not appreciate this style for the universe.
Yeah.
That's basically what he was saying, is that he was basically making a point that the people at DC Comics, they don't like what they've done. With Snyder in particular, they don't like this. So, yeah, it's okay to not like these movies, guys. The original creators don't like these movies.
And it's also okay to like them. Like
like what you like, and don't like what you don't like. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm still a fence sitter on Man of Steel. I like any new version of Superman. I'm at least going to try out. The enigma that is BVS is probably going to be brought up in film school in some context in the future.
How not to make a movie.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I'm not even exactly sure what the entry point is for us. I will start off with the most tepid of hot takes. Yes, this is better than Whedon's version.
Well, yeah. It's like, but I think the last 2 days has been people all over my Twitter and my Facebook feed being like, it's amazing, oh my god, it's so much better. I think people are confusing better with good. I think that's kind of a problem here. I know that we might disagree on this, but I feel like they're misinterpreting better with good, because this film was originally meant to come out 1 year after BVS.
Yeah. If
that actually came to pass as intended, I think the reception of this movie would be significantly lower. Would you agree?
Yeah, and this is the most interesting part to me. I think after seeing it, I am very much more interested in the Whedon version because of how different it is and the ways that it's different. Mm-hmm. This exists. It feels like the last two. Here's your trilogy. Be happy. I find the Whedon version more interesting. Byron, what were your immediate thoughts after 4 hours and 3 minutes of your life?
I was expecting a triple down of Batman versus Superman, but I got just kind of a solid, very long, it felt really old school style movie, and I enjoyed it.
Okay.
So you had a good time?
I did, yeah. It directly compared to Whedon's version, which I watched with a commentary track over it, and that was the only way I made it through that movie.
Was it the Red Letter Media commentary track?
It was. And it's
yes,
glorious.
I love that so much. I do like the fact that they do point out in that commentary track, Meister Klaus is like, the Flash could just dig up Clark's grave in like a nanosecond, right? And then they directly say that in the movie. Barry's like, I could do this in a nanosecond, and Cyborg's just like, nah.
Let's respect his grave.
That's something I really liked. It was interesting to see what problems with Whedon that there were actual film parts that would fix, but were just cut out of the movie.
Yeah, basically, the Whedon version is essentially cutting all the fat. That's basically it. It basically cuts out all the setups for all the characters. It cuts out all the extraneous stuff. It cuts out all the nightmare sequence. It cuts out all the premonitions, the dreams. I mean, Diane Lane's role is basically reduced to almost nothing. Like that, yeah. It's a film that's much more streamlined. And I would say, honestly, the Whedon version is better paced.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I will take better pacing over a long slog any day. I'm not saying I like the Whedon version. I'm just saying I think that it has better structure to it.
Unless you're Kurosawa, your 4-hour movie is not going to have good pacing. I'm just
Yeah, you got to earn that length, and unfortunately, I don't think they did.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I have a solid opinion maybe until the end of this episode because I'm still thinking about it mostly. But I'm very
There's good moments. There's good stuff in this movie.
There's a lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff. I mean, honestly, I like I've said, I've never liked Zack Snyder's visual style, but I think that in some ways it does work for this movie, with especially the Flash.
Yeah,
The Flash, like the way in which they, stop the Unity at the end of the film, and he has to go backwards through time. Amazing sequence. Great scene. And the score,
all the cyborg setup.
Yeah, the cyborg setup, the Barry Allen stuff is really good. Like, that stuff's great. I just wish it was in a better movie. Or, hey, here's an idea. Put those into their own movies.
Yeah.
That's the sticking point here, is that the first, 2 acts of this movie are essentially the other individual movies that should have come before this. This is like... Bruce Wayne is talking to these people as if they've been on, 10 adventures. They just met. Where's the rest of the movies? There's no Cyborg movie, there's no Aquaman movie, there's no Flash movie. It just feels like they just threw it all in because they just wanted to just get to Darkseid.
Do you feel like the lead into the future movies is here? Or I guess really only Aquaman, because Shazam's kind of a side thing, and then Wonder Woman 2 was a prequel to this technically. So yeah, does it feel like it launches into Aquaman better from this cut versus the original Justice League?
Definitely not tone wise. I mean, they murder how many people in this movie?
This
is an R-rated movie.
This was the first one that I straight up laughed at a death when Batman turns the Batmobile and throws the Parademon into the stake, and it's just intense blood. I chuckled. I was like, all right, you got your R rating. All right, have some fun, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Sure. I'm kind of indifferent. I think I was trying to get Maggie Mayfish, a YouTuber, onto this show, and I actually got a response from her. She said, I'd love to. Unfortunately, I'm busy tomorrow. So she's unfortunately not joining us today, but she did a watch party on her own, and I watched part of it while I was taking a break from this movie. And she basically said, yeah, I'm indifferent. And that's how I feel. I'm indifferent. If you love DC Comics, this will do it for you. If you don't like DC Comics, this ain't for you. This ain't for you.
It's also difficult to get excited for any of the cool stuff in it because it's not leading anywhere.
Yeah, and that's another thing is the film is structured in the way of 6 parts plus an epilogue. So the way it's designed is that it's a lead up to another set of Justice League movies where Darkseid's going to invade Earth. But that's not going to come to pass because Snyder said he's out. He's not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that the first half of this movie is a lot of setup to get to the end of the movie. And I mentioned during the movie that in our chat, I said, this is the same problem as Suicide Squad. The first half of the movie is a bunch of setup, but because you already know where it's going, it's all pointless, and because it's going towards nothing.
Right.
It's trying to... I dare someone to watch this movie again and not have and try to have the same opinion. I dare somebody.
I mean, so you're always going to have your devoted fans, and I know specifically I've had a few people messaging me over the last couple days saying this was a gift, and they're really happy that it happened, and they really enjoyed it, and they're going to commit more hours of their time to watching it. And I'm all for that. I want people to enjoy things. I have been squirming my way out of getting a solid opinion on my I hate rating movies like this. I like rating bad movies because they're bad, and I like rating good movies because they're good. And then enigmas like this, I'm I don't want to ascribe some kind of score to this. This is almost feels like it's operating outside of cinema to me. Just the fact that it exists is kind of unprecedented at this point.
I mentioned before we started that the production history of this film is more interesting than the film itself.
I would straight up watch a documentary about the making of both of these movies.
I do believe that the production history is more interesting because if you actually break down the previous movies like Man of Steel or BVS or even Suicide Squad, they're fascinating anomalies in terms of their production and also in terms of their the stuff you can pull out of them, like theme-wise or character-wise. Even if it's all a mess, there's stuff to pull out of it. There's nothing in this movie. There are no themes. There's no visual iconography that's really dynamic beyond like, isn't that cool? There's nothing. The movie's so empty. How can a movie be stuffed with so much stuff and feel so empty?
This is I think that the real dichotomy of what happens here is...
even like Endgame, like even that film has like themes of self-sacrifice for the greater cause.
Sure.
Like there's stuff to talk about. There's depth of character because they've built up for 22 movies. Like they earned all the depth they have with those characters, and it means something when characters finally die.
Yeah.
With this, it just feels like, what is there to talk about?
Yeah, it sits in this really weird nexus of movies that want to be about their characters, which I very much enjoy, and probably my highlight is that aspect. But also, this is the action figure smashing movie. This is, you got all the toys dumped into the middle of the floor, and you're going to play with all of them now. And that's also fun. I feel like those two things are at odds with each other, so I'm enjoying the action sequences that are touched up and they're punched up and they're great, and I'm enjoying the character stuff, and it just feels disconnected. Byron, Jesse's mentioned a few of his standouts. I'm curious, what were some standout moments, positive or negative, for you across the film?
Yeah, I was really surprised that the things I was worried about didn't show up. I actually didn't mind the color grading because it was there the whole film. I'm like, okay, that just kind of became subconscious. I liked that most of the stuff that was added was there to develop the characters, or at least establish some kind of motivation.
Yeah.
Because watching through Whedon's cut, it might have been better paced, but I couldn't tell because I didn't care. And everything, because there was no fat in between all the scenes, it was like jumping from point to point with characters I didn't care about, doing things that I didn't quite understand how they fit together. Even though this is, like a C- at 4 hours compared to like a D- at 2 hours, I'd still take the C- at 4 hours because it felt more focused on just like, we're going to tell this way. I don't have a lot of movies, so we're going to have a lot of smaller movies in here.
Right. It does feel like a... and I only know this because I sit through them so often. I do short film festivals, and usually you watch 50 movies in a 4-hour block, and that's kind of what this felt like overall. There was a bunch of like the Themyscira scene, total punch up from the Whedon version, just on every level. I was like, well, this feels like a scene instead of a thing that happened.
Yeah, it feels like there's consequences to what's happening in the scene.
Right,
like
exactly.
Apparently in this cut, the entire temple falls into the ocean. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, wow.
The world has changed.
The world is changing. That cliched line.
Yeah, and so those are the things that I really enjoyed. Oh, also, can we talk about, I don't think Steppenwolf overall is a engaging villain, but at least this time I understood his motivations.
Yes, I agree. I think that's kind of the intention, is that he is a crap villain, because I had to do research for my pitch to fix this thing. And apparently Steppenwolf, in the context of the DC universe, has fallen out of good graces with Darkseid.
Yeah.
That's not really covered very much in the movie, except for a single scene. So the entire time, I'm kind of like, why is Darkseid doing this? What is his motivation? And then they give you that one scene, and it's like, oh, okay, he's trying to earn his way back in. Oh, okay, it's not a lot, but it's something compared to the nothing of the Whedon cut. And I will say he does look better, even if he does at times look like a wicker basket.
The one thing, and this is the weirdest thing, like if I'm the only one that this bothered, I'm fine with it. You can see the whites of his eyes a little too much, and that kind of was messing with me. I don't know if it was Uncanny Valley or what. I was just like, why am I seeing so much white in his eyes? That's weird.
I have no idea. No idea.
The little things I fixate on, I understand.
Yeah.
He's very punched up. I will say this is a throwback to our previous Justice League episode with Nick Berger. I was so happy to see all the Granny Goodness stuff going around on Twitter. I was like, oh hell yeah, she's going to be in the movie.
She doesn't do shit.
She's a background and
it's not even a person. She's CGI.
She's CGI.
Like, you fucking prick.
I'm sorry, Nick. Nick worked Granny Goodness into his pitch really well.
As did
you
I.
Can go back and,
As did I.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you can go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear our review of the Whedon cut, as I'm going to be calling it, because that's the only way to differentiate. I refuse to call this Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm sorry. I
mean, like I said, there's good stuff in here, but there's a lot of just extraneous junk. And I've pointed this out, that this is what's called an assembly cut. For those that don't understand what an assembly cut means in editing terms, when an editor receives the footage for the film, all the dailies, they essentially put all the dailies onto a timeline and basically organize the scenes in their proper chronological order. So that way you can lay out like where things are in each scene, play out different performances, play out, different editing, to see if things fit in continuity or if there's issues with eye lines. And it's essentially devoid of pacing and devoid of proper structure for the overlong film. It's just the scenes A to B to C.
And this is also where your stand-in music, they'll drop in what they want the score to sound like, but not the actual score. Yeah, your temp tracks.
Your temp tracks are basically what fill in the score, so that way somebody knows to put in music later on. And you and I both had the same opinion about the music in this movie, Seth.
God damn it. Those, please tell me those were the temp tracks. I refuse to believe that's the actual music that they chose. The score...
The fact that Hallelujah made its way into the end credits, I wanted to stab somebody.
And I don't change my opinion. The DCEU has the better scores of the two universes. I do love the DCEU scores, but the songs, the playlist, the whatever his sad boy Spotify playlist is, he dropped into here.
His emo sad boy playlist.
Oh, I was like, this is killing my vibe, dude. This is straight up harsh in the vibe. This is not cool.
The worst one is when Barry Allen saves Iris West.
Yes.
That's the worst.
No, I changed my mind. It's the one where Lois Lane is visiting the Superman statue, and they're singing, "Our gods have, we outlived our gods," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, I take that back. Yeah, you're right. Oh my god. And by the way, Iris West in this movie has no dialogue and no character. Thanks, guys.
She's very cute.
She's cute, but so is Candace Owens on the Flash TV show. That's not a character. It's so she's cute. That doesn't give her a personality or a reason to be in this movie.
Byron, did you have any big standout downsides to your watch?
Yeah, it's much more specific, but seeing this, I'm now absolutely convinced that neither director had any idea on how to make Aquaman fun or interesting or even likable.
So they just turned him into a punk rock star from the 80s.
He's basically Vin Diesel with hair in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, he's the character that just talks down to everyone else's idea. He never has an idea of his own. Because he can't. They're like, well, he's got water.
Dumb.
He's got water powers, so he'll stop the water once, and then he'll stab some guys with a trident. And that's fine, but if there's no gregarity, if there's no depth to it, if he's just I don't like you, turns in a huff and leaves, and that's it. It's why are you here?
I have a serious question here.
Okay.
So, You know how they're saying, like, the Age of Heroes needs to come again? Like, we need to get all of our heroes together to stand up against Steppenwolf?
Yeah.
Why didn't all these people go get their respective armies to go and fight Steppenwolf together, as opposed to just the 6 of them showing up?
I'm glad you asked that. The Amazonians are fucking dead weight in the DCEU.
They do nothing.
They're stored up on their island. They even cut away to them when the Unity happens. And I'm like, where the fuck are you guys? Why aren't you looking for Steppenwolf? This is like kind of your whole thing, isn't it?
And also another weird thing. So apparently the Amazonians, Themyscira is in the Pacific, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Gotham is like where is it supposed to be? Like Chicago?
Or New Jersey, maybe?
Something like that. So apparently all these different civilizations all see the same event at the same time, even though the world is round. So does the DCEU take place on a flat Earth?
Hey, weirder things have happened. I mean, you know that sound doesn't reverberate in a circle, right? So you didn't hear Superman's yell on the other side of the world either. It would just go out.
Oh, by the way, that's added bullshit. That's not in BVS. The waveform coming out of Superman's mouth, that's not in BVS. That was added after the fact because they didn't know how the hell to connect this over to Justice League.
Well, and you know, that was one of the things that I'm kind of split on how I feel about it, because I love that BVS starts with the end of Man of Steel, and then for the same reason I like the idea that Justice League starts on BVS. If you're going to go connected, go hardcore in the paint connected. But then it also makes it seem like over the last 6 weeks, Superman became a hero and then died, and the whole world misses him in Justice League.
Yeah, this movie's kind of a soft reboot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, basically, if you jumped in here and didn't see any of the other movies, you could basically still kind of sort of understand it.
Yeah.
You don't need the other movies, and I think that's because in the middle of production on Justice League, you know, before they change production again, they got the reviews for BVS, and the studio just panicked, and they were like, don't do that again. That's why, like, there's no politics in this movie. There's no other characters. Like, the town in which this takes place in is deserted. So the heroes can cause all kinds of damage all they want, and there's no casualties.
Which, weirdly, they added into the Whedon version.
Yeah, to get fun scenes and make it heroic. But, like, did you notice they didn't say Chernobyl? They said the location of a nuclear accident.
Oh, yeah.
It can't be an actual place. That's how averse to politics it is. It's just some place. It's fine.
Right. Also, like, that dome should have shown up on, like, any satellite imaging. It shouldn't have been that hard to find it.
Doesn't Bruce Wayne say he has 6 satellites in the atmosphere?
He's got 6 satellites, and he can't find where this city-sized dome is on the globe. Are you kidding me?
You're terrible at your job, Bruce.
You're fired. Although I did love his line about how he works for Alfred. Their dynamic, I feel robbed of a lot of stuff in the DCEU that even Zack Snyder himself has set up. The dynamic between Alfred and Wonder Woman, awesome.
Yeah,
it's like that whole scene. I was like, this is fun. More of this, please.
Yes, more of that. But now it's all gone. I mean, I will agree. There are a lot of things we were robbed of.
Yeah. The Cyborg movie, him helping the waitress was like heartstring tugging.
Yeah, like
to me.
Like I said, there's good stuff in this movie. Like the Cyborg stuff is great. The Flash stuff when he saves everybody at the end and reverses time, that's great.
Yeah.
Just, I wish it was in a better movie.
That whole sequence was the first like big respect to Zack Snyder that I felt, because I know he filmed that knowing he probably wasn't going to be able to do many more movies, and so he was like, you know what, I'm going to do the Flash breaking the speed of light in my movie. I'm just going to do it, and it works. And I was like, you know what, mad props, Zack Snyder. I appreciate you doing that, because there's no guarantees we're ever going to get a Flash movie.
Yeah.
I liked that part because it gave the Flash a part in winning the day.
Say that again?
I like that part a lot because it gave the Flash, a hand in winning the day, whereas in the Whedonverse, he just rescues people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't do much.
Guys, he's super fast. Like, he should be very helpful against an army.
Yeah. So I have a big question.
Okay.
So Martian Manhunter's been around the whole time, huh?
Ooh, boy. Don't get me started. If I have 3 major negatives, one is that this is essentially an assembly cut.
Yep.
2 is the score, and 3 is we're introduced to Martian Manhunter in a fucking apartment hallway.
Mm-hmm. And it also retroactively causes problems with the 2 previous movies because it's Harry Lennox, who was the military general in Man of Steel and BVS, and the whole time I'm asking myself, okay, so you were there for the Kryptonian invasion, and you were there for the Doomsday battle, and you didn't lift a goddamn finger to help anybody, even though it could have destroyed the world. You prick!
Not only that, you know this this forces the movie to fail the Bechdel test.
The only way we can get Diane Lane into the movie is to have her actually be a guy.
Yep.
Oh my god. Oh,
a little
Jesus.
regretful on that one, I'm not gonna lie.
Ugh.
And what does it add to the overall film? I think was my
Nothing.
big question. I was
it's another setup for another movie that's not coming.
Yeah. Also, what happens when Lois Lane references that conversation to Martha later on, and she's like, I didn't fucking say that. What are you talking about?
Oh, no. Oh, man.
Yikes. Big yikes.
Yeah.
Those are my 3 major... Oh, okay. No, I have a 4th one.
Okay.
The nightmare scene.
Oh, at the end? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's worse
Why is
than...
this happening to Bruce? Shouldn't this be happening to Barry?
You would think.
Like we said on Man of Steel, if anybody ever says you would think, it probably means that's what you should think. If it's gonna happen to anybody, maybe it would happen to the guy that, I don't know, fucked with the timeline.
Or Cyborg, who got to see a little bit of that earlier in the
right.
Kryptonian ship.
Yeah, maybe somebody that's connected to this stuff and not the guy that's absolutely useless because he does nothing in the final battle.
Right.
Like, Batman is useless in this movie.
Oh, he's dead weight.
Oh, dude, like, I have always had a problem with Batman being on the Justice League. Like, this fucker shouldn't even be in the same room with these people. He really shouldn't. He's useless. He gets them together, and then what does he do? He has the ship that flies them there, but all of these people can either fly or move very quickly.
Yeah.
He is the only one that's playing catch up.
Yes. I have no argument. Yes. My issue with that scene, though, is if you recall, immediately previous to that is the conversation between Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, which, like, in a vacuum, fun, great. Yeah. I'm having a good time.
And it's a slight rework from the original Whedon cut where it sets up the Legion of Doom.
Right. And hard cut into Nightmare where we now know that Deathstroke and Batman are friends. Hey, you know that removes any dramatic tension from anything that happens to them?
Yeah. Like, oh, God. So I saw the ending and I saw the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the same problem as, like, the Arrow TV show where they stopped doing the flashbacks because they realized, oh, shit, we caught up to our timeline. What do we do?
Right.
Flash forward. It's like,
is Green Arrow gonna die on the island? Fuck no, he gets off the island.
He gets off the island. Like, that's the point where I tapped out of Arrow. I was like, yeah, fuck you. It's like, I'm done with this shit. But yeah, it's like they removed all the tension, and then Joker is apparently a part of the Justice League in the future,
or their prisoner, and also, we try to, like, tenderly tiptoe around this topic. Zack Snyder and his homoerotic writing and visuals.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up, like, not even subtext, text that Joker gives Batman reach-arounds.
And I brought that up with something that was pointed out with Zack Snyder posting on his Vero account, the painting or the photograph that's above Bruce Wayne's bed.
Yeah.
There's a comics artist I really love that lives in Baltimore, Jose Villarrubia. And he's a great guy, super nice guy, one of my favorite people in the comics business. And he pointed out that the image is it's a Mapplethorpe photograph.
Mm.
Go to Wikipedia right now and look up Mapplethorpe, and you'll see that he made very explicit homoerotic BDSM types of photographs. There's a whole film about this, and the whole time that it's up there, I'm thinking to myself, what? Why would that be above Bruce Wayne's bed? And then Zack Snyder said, well, it's meant to symbolize he's lost his way and he's a womanizer using sex to escape. But Mapplethorpe was a raging homosexual, like 3 dicks deep in the ass homosexual. I wish I was on the set for BVS and I could just lean over to the art designer and just be like, "Do you want to tell him or should I?"
Oh my god. Which, like, if that's his thing, that's fine. Like, I have no issue with it. I just think it's so funny that like these movies and characters are touted as like the peak of straight masculinity, and I'm like, this is some of the gayest shit I've ever seen, if you're asking me.
And when I was driving home yesterday, I realized that if you analyze BVS from not a political perspective or a character perspective, but from a sexual perspective, it's a million times more interesting. It's a fucking gold mine. Like, you've brought it up, like BVS as this new queer cinema film about these 2 very closeted gay superheroes that really want to fuck each other, but society deems they must fight each other, down to the point where both Lois and Wonder Woman have to literally step between them to stop them from fighting or fucking in order to fight a genderless, asexual monster from another planet.
Mm-hmm.
That is infinitely more interesting than the political bullshit of that movie. I think Zack Snyder's working through some shit.
I lost count of the number of times that Aquaman took off his shirt before diving back into the water.
Oh my god. Why does he put on a shirt anyways? It's gonna get wet.
I mean, because he's not cold, right? If he can swim in that water, he's not getting cold on the surface.
So why does he wear clothes anyway?
Yeah.
I will say, though, the entire cast of this movie is, and when I say entire, I'm not kidding, everyone's fucking jacked. I mean,
oh yeah, Zack Snyder loves that.
Commissioner Gordon, every Amazon,
except for Wonder Woman, because the main character can't look like a ripped bodybuilder.
But I mean, even for her, she looks like she could choke you out, no problem.
Oh yeah,
like she's lean, jacked. Henry Cavill has never been larger in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh yeah, and he doesn't have a shirt either.
Except for maybe Mission Impossible Fallout, where he literally reloads his biceps.
If they could have added one thing into this movie,
reloads his biceps
immediately,
to fight
10 out of 10. He clapped Steppenwolf around too. Like, I remember that from the original version and that being fun. This was like, it was like bordering on abusive. How much more powerful he was.
This is like the bully on the playground kicking the shit out of the new kid.
When he lasers off his like antler thing, I was like, "Oh shit!" Really?
Yeah, this is the Superman that they wanted. This is the one you wanted. This is why his suit is black.
He's got no skin in the game. He doesn't know who the fuck Steppenwolf is.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
doesn't matter. Fuck it. We're at the end of the movie. Doesn't matter. And by the way, is it weird to anybody that the way in which Superman is portrayed as being evil in the nightmare sequence at the end, he gets his classic red and blue suit back?
Shouldn't
that be the part where he has the black suit?
That is direct reference to Injustice, which I know Zack Snyder loves.
He wanted Injustice. He wanted
Injustice.
All of this bullshit, all this buildup, and I think Nando posted this on his Twitter account. All this buildup just to ask the question, what if Superman was evil? That's it? All of that for that.
Yeah. Also, okay.
But what if, man?
But what if? We saw it. It's called Injustice. They're good games.
I'm obviously not the time travel guy. I might have to refer to the third Jesse to get an answer on this, but...
Not Jesse boyfriend.
Yes, correct. Not Jesse girlfriend. Jesse, future Jesse.
There you go.
Okay, so Nightmare Batman obviously saw the premonition from Barry Allen in his timeline, right?
I guess. He said it was a dream, but it seemed like it was for real.
But, okay, so...
Oh, whatever. Move on.
Well, my logic here is that the end of the movie implies that he let Lois die instead of dying for her.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is going to turn into a big dramatic thing. I saw the article that was talking about how they were going to replace Batman if he got his 3 Justice League movies. And
apparently it was Superman's son that was supposed to take over and become the new Batman.
Did you guys notice the pregnancy test in Lois Lane's drawer?
Yeah, that was real subtle. Didn't we bring up at one point, like, didn't Aaron say, like, how is it Superman doesn't kill the women he has sex with?
Well, isn't that why he bangs Wonder Woman in the comics?
Yeah, because physically she's the only person that can hold his child. Like there's the storyline of the boys in the comics, the Superman type character Homelander, he rapes Billy Butcher's wife and gets her pregnant, and she can't bear the child, so the child basically bursts out of her with the umbilical cord still attached to it as like evil fetus Superman, and she's dead on the ground, and he beats it to death with a baseball bat.
Yeah, I'm glad they cut that out of the show. I'm not gonna lie. That's
yeah, I'm glad that they didn't do that, because there is a lot of stuff in that book I'm just kind of like, yeah, we don't need that.
a little too dark. I get it.
Yeah,
but
I get it, but
dark.
we don't need it.
But my thought here is that if he knows that Lois Lane is the key, that's all Barry Allen says, then why would he let her die?
Or hey, why does he actually not like go to her and say like, Lois, this is really important. I need to talk to you.
Right.
Like put her under lock and key like right away. Like maybe involve her in some way. Like let her know that there's a serious problem that needs her help.
I'm also like, I don't like the premonition from the future thing in general, because there's a very concise way to say, if Lois dies, Superman turns evil. Like Barry could have just said that.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
It doesn't have to be mysterious.
It's drama for the sake of drama.
Like, it's not Inception. You're not trying to boil an idea down to its core element. It is, no, just relay exactly enough information.
Yeah, like, you're a time traveler, Barry. You have all the time in the world.
Right.
What I would have liked is if this flashback was, the him they were talking about, if it wasn't Superman, but if it was actually Darkseid. Instead of just kind of retreading old ground of like, what if Superman is evil? It'd be like, oh, maybe this big bad is actually a really big problem in the future.
Yeah.
Well, the original plan was that Darkseid was actually going to, he was going to make it to Earth, because if it was supposed to be 2 movies.
Yeah.
And the original plan was that the ending was going to be like, the ending was to be the nightmare scene. And Darkseid makes it to Earth, and Superman is his minion.
Yeah.
He's under the control of Darkseid. That was
Gotcha.
the point. They get the anti-life equation, and they twist his mind to make him a slave to Darkseid. And the whole rest of the film of the second one would be turn Superman back to being good, and then rewind time. Barry goes back and tells the rest of the Justice League, "Hey, here's what just happened. Make sure this doesn't happen."
Did you read who solves the anti-life equation in Zack Snyder's Justice League 2?
No, who was it?
The Riddler. Because he does riddles and not equations from the beginning of the universe.
You know what else would really help this movie? Have a New Gods movie before you do this, so you can set up Mr. Miracle, who knows the life equation.
Right.
Maybe do that. Everyone keeps saying, oh, Zack Snyder really loves these characters and he loves this universe. If he really did and really gave a shit, why didn't he say to the studio, hey guys, why don't we do like a bunch of solo movies and give them all their own individual parts so that way we can set this shit up for later?
I think, genuine thoughts, I think he was enticed by the idea of seeing
Jump to the end?
If he was up to the challenge of getting to Avengers faster than Avengers. I think that's really... Because if you look at his movies, it is Superman, Batman, Superman, and Friends. That's the pyramid that you're building up from. And everyone knows Batman, so yeah, it makes sense. Do Superman first. But then Batman does a hard heel turn between 2 movies. And as much as I appreciate the ways that they made that more obvious in the Snyder Cut, I don't think it's 100%... It needed more time to marinate, if that, to reference Letterkenny.
Yeah.
You better let that one marinate.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys before we go to the break. What, in specifically this cut of the movie, which characters benefited the most and which characters benefited the least or were detracted from, if you have opinions either way on that? Byron, I'll start with you.
Cyborg got the most out of it. He had an arc now.
He does something.
I feel like he was the most changed in acting performances between the 2 cuts. Because Jesse, you watched it more recently than me. He's a little more lighthearted and funnier in the Whedon cut, right?
Yeah, he even says "booyah," like from
Yeah.
Teen Titans. They cut that.
Yeah.
Like, this is stating like this is not for kids.
And he also gets the one F word in the whole movie when he's like, "Fuck the world." And I was like,
No, there's multiple F words.
really?
Batman says at the end of the movie to the Joker, and rest assured, I will fucking kill you.
That's right. I forgot about that.
There's a bunch of F words in this movie. There's a lot of swearing. There's a lot of graphic violence. The only thing this movie really lacks is nudity. That's it.
What Wonder Woman does straight up murk some people in that museum in London.
Oh, yeah. Did you read that post I sent from Justin Jordan, comics writer Justin Jordan?
No.
So apparently he's like, I have superhuman speed and I can disarm all of you really quickly, but I'm going to use my Explodo bracelets to blow you out of the windows of this building and cause thousands of dollars of property damage, even though I could just knock you out in half a second.
Well, she already ruined the ceiling, so why not?
Like, that's another thing. Is like I understand in films like this, there's going to be property damage, things will get wrecked. I get it, and that's fine. Like, but when the heroes are actively causing it,
Yeah.
actively contributing to it, that's when I've got an issue with it. Like,
Well,
the Avengers, it's like they're not causing the buildings to fall over. Like, yeah, the Hulk is kind of messing around and smashing some stuff, but he's mainly staying in the street.
Well, and it would be different too if they. So I was thinking about that similar thought during that scene. I was like, if they gave me like 3 seconds of her like panting as if doing this bullet thing is very difficult, like this is something that is very hard to do, then it makes sense why she would want to end it faster, like because she deflects a 30 bullet clip, and
Yeah.
if you make it obvious that this is a chore, then yeah, it makes sense why you end it faster. But when she looks unfazed, it's like, well, why can't you just do that again and do it a bunch? Why aren't you Michael Jordan, hitting 3-pointers every game?
Yeah, it's the same problem as like Man of Steel. Like, why is he not getting tired during this fight? Why is he not taking any damage? Like,
and this is the Indiana Jones problem that I bring up often is when you show your character react scared and take damage and get knocked out, that puts you more into their position. Like when he gets punched the fuck out by that bald Nazi, it's like, yeah, this is going to be a tough fight. I get that. That like this makes sense.
And then he's on the ship with Marion, and he's got all those bruises, and he's all beat up, and he's just kind of like, oh god, everything hurts. Like, that's a great scene.
One of my favorite scenes in The Protector is he takes out a bunch of guys in a warehouse, and then he sleeps for like 24 hours, and he wakes up sore as fuck because he got beat up and did all these like huge athletic things. Yeah, your body doesn't pop back from that, no problem.
Or there's the lateral hallway fight scene in Old Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like he's taking out two groups of guys left and right, and he's just beating the crap out of them, and then he finally beats them and makes it to the elevator, and he's just like panting and he's out of breath and everyone's tired and there's like, oh god, I can't move, and then more guys show up out of the elevator. That's great.
Right. Oh yeah.
Do that.
Please.
Show them as like depower these people a little bit.
Just a hair. Just enough to make it understandable.
Or to make it seem like there's some kind of threat against them. Right. Yeah, it can't be just. It can't, like, this isn't really the Justice League. This is basically Superman and a couple of the people that help out. like everybody else is basically useless because Superman can do everything.
Superman and the chores he couldn't be bothered to do at the time.
You go down to the bottom of the ocean. I don't like swimming. You go dwell in the shadows. I like staying in the light. No?
Byron, do you think any characters suffered for the longer cut?
Yeah, it's either Aquaman for not having anything good happen, or it's Batman for getting even more weakened by having more screen time and still doing zero.
He shows up late to like everything in the final battle. Like he just like
he has to be pulled up on top of that ridge at the end of the movie by Superman.
Starting
for the hero shot.
Starting from the Resurrect Superman scene, he just shows up at the end of the scene as if he just was sprinting to the next location.
He got left behind by Transpo.
Like he walks in after Cyborg's dad dies at the very end of the scene to be like, I have 6 satellites. And I was like, where the fuck have you been, dude? Like, don't you have a grappling gun or something?
It's like the same thing as BVS. Like, Batman does nothing in that end battle with Doomsday.
No.
He does nothing. He hides under a piece of concrete.
He shoots one canister of kryptonite, and it does fuck all.
Yeah, does fuck all.
Jesse, how about you? Who do you think benefited the most, and who do you think benefited the least from a longer cut?
Definitely Cyborg. Definitely Cyborg. Barry gets a little bit more, but more Cyborg because he really gets an arc and gets some character growth. He actually contributes at the end of the movie. The least is probably Wonder Woman. She really doesn't do that much, honestly. I'd say Batman, he does get the team together a little bit better. But in terms of, like, she's basically just there as a thug to just fight.
She's definitely more badass, but I feel like she's there for exposition, and then that's kind of... Well, no, okay, I walk that back. She and Cyborg had a really good interaction across the movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I will say that the scene in which they lay out... Actually, you know what? You know who got the least development? Darkseid, your main fucking threats. Who the fuck is Darkseid to this whole story?
He's the guy that got killed by an axe.
Why have him in this movie? Why not do that as the tag at the end of the film?
So his whole thing...
You know, kind of like the other studio across the street that did that.
His whole thing doesn't make sense to me because this movie wants me to assume that he's been to Earth before and was there because of the anti-life equation and then just lost where the Earth is. He just... I forgot.
or better point is, so the big fight was happening on Earth like 5,000 years ago, and apparently he just left behind all of his really important shit, and just now he's coming back for it? That's rather fucking convenient.
It's his army versus another army. So obviously the Earth put up a pretty good fight for being a primitive planet, as they call us. But then for him,
you have like gods in there. You have like Poseidon, you have Ares, you have Zeus, like you have the Green Lanterns. Like, I can let it go.
Sure,
No.
but it wouldn't if that was the planet that you found, the thing you've been looking for thousands of years, and you've conquered 100,000 worlds, and they beat you, wouldn't you like geotag that planet, be like, I'm coming back someday?
Yeah.
But it just gets lost, and Steppenwolf happens upon it. He's just like, oh fuck, this is that world from the legend, and it's just like, no, the dude from the legend is still alive. He should remember that. And Darkseid's just shocked. He's like, oh, that's where the anti-life equation is. Dude, this is where you fucked up the worst. You should remember this shit.
Yeah, like, and another problem is that I was in JD's chat and I was asking about. I'm not a huge in-depth in knowledge about the DC universe, especially the New Gods. I know very little about it, so I was like, everybody in the chat, like, tell me about the DC universe, tell me about the New Gods, tell me about Darkseid. Who the hell is Darkseid? Everybody just kept coming back to the same thing: bad guy, bad guy. Like there's nothing to talk about. He is a bad guy. He wants to conquer and enslave and imprison. That's it. There is no reason or rhyme for why he's doing what he's doing. He's just bad guy.
And I enjoy the different.
And guess what I changed in my pitch?
I enjoy the differentiation from Thanos to be like, Thanos thinks he's right. I assume Darkseid knows that he's evil.
Yeah, like if he's evil and revels in it, but it just seems like he's just angry all the time.
Yeah.
At least, like, take some joy in your anger and evil. Like, revel in it.
And if you're going to have Darkseid, get Michael Ironside to do the voice.
Yeah.
Michael Darkseid.
Yeah,
I like it.
This movie is... It feels like a really long, very expensive fan film. Would you agree?
Okay, you know what it feels like to me? It feels like, what if The Watchmen was done 10 years later and it gets to look better for it? That's that's what I was getting. Like, the shot of them jumping out of the carrier ship, I was like, Batman just looks like Owlman.
Yeah.
Like, he straight up just looks like Owlman.
Well, like we've said, Snyder likes to reuse the same stuff.
It feels like him revisiting Wells, and sans the whole Whedon situation, it feels like the studio's decision to be like, hey, be less political, helps his movie a little bit, because we're not sitting around talking about Ayn Randiism, right? Like,
Yeah,
thank
there's
fucking
like
God.
no politics. It's a very clean film. It's streamlined in terms of what it's about. It's just a story.
Yeah.
It's just a story. There's nothing really in depth. And that's the big problem, is that there's no depth. And that's why I had such a hard time finishing it, because I'm just like, what do I latch onto? Emotionally, how am I supposed to be engaged with this? And the problem is that it's banking on your love of Superman and your interest in Batman. The problem is the foundation upon which this film is built is broken.
I've never seen a movie that was edited despite the fact that you saw another cut of it. Does that make sense? Like, I've seen movies get like Full Metal Alchemist. There was a original series before the manga ended, and then when the manga ended, they did a second series called Brotherhood, which was just a clean slate reboot. But they assumed that you saw the first one. If you're a fan of the series, you saw it, and so they cut around the stuff that you've already seen. This cut of Justice League feels like it was actively going, let's assume no one ever saw Whedon's Justice League.
Yeah.
And that's odd. That's an odd choice to me, because your whole fan base is built upon the idea of they saw Whedon's cut and didn't like it.
Yeah, but there are people that like it. I mean, I don't hate it. It's very boring, but I wasn't like offended while watching it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very dull, but it's better, way better paced. It's much easier to sit. It's much easier to sit through.
Yeah.
I would be more convinced that this was weird if it wasn't sold kind of from the beginning as Snyder's original vision.
Right.
You know, where it's like, no, this is what should have gone to theaters. And that's kind of the whole driving force of like, no, I have been wronged.
And I don't disagree with that. Like, if I was going to suggest somebody watch the 3 films, I would say watch the Snyder cut, not the Whedon cut.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Watch it in chunks. Don't watch it all in one go.
Right. There was one review that I was reading that was like, I'm glad they didn't do the multiple chapters, because the pacing of this movie, the chapters would have been exciting, boring, boring, exciting, boring, exciting. And I was like, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, it is. This is probably one of the most poorly paced films I've seen in a long time. I would put this up there with like Fan 4 Stick as bad pacing.
There's too much, and there to be clear, there's a probably close to great version that's like 2.5 hours long sitting in here somewhere.
It's buried in there somewhere. There's got to be a way to streamline. You know, the biggest way you streamline it. Please don't use all the slow motion all you want all the time.
Oh God,
this movie is like an hour longer because of slow motion.
Easily.
It's just it's very, very masturbatory. I think. What did you describe it as?
Okay, yeah. So if the Whedon version is a cardboard, tasteless vegan burger that you eat to be healthy, this is the greasy triple cheeseburger from Five Guys with the extra fries. That's like, yeah, sure, it tastes great, but holy shit, it's taken 4 hours off your life for sure.
Yeah. It reminds me of that moment in Princess Bride. I have just taken 1 hour of your life.
Yes, exactly.
Could you please take it from the Justice League?
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I do feel like I had a much better experience watching this one.
It's an interesting anomaly.
Yeah. I do want to point out, and I'll drop this in the Discord later, Joss Whedon thinks that taking the contrast and saturation out of a film is the same as shooting a film dark. And I hate to be the one to compliment Zack Snyder. The black levels in the Zack Snyder cut are correct and look good. And so all the shots look masturbatorily great, as you put it.
Yeah. I will say the film actually does look good. I think that's... They saw the reaction to BVS, and they're like, okay, that's a little too dark. Let's bump it up just a little bit. There you go. Was this the same DP as BVS?
I don't know, actually. Good question.
Just check on that real quick. I'm going to say something that's going to sound odd, but I will stand by it. If this film had never come out, it would not be a loss to cinema. Imagine the universe in which Ridley Scott's final cut of Blade Runner doesn't come out. That's a loss to cinema. Imagine the universe in which Terry Gilliam's Brazil his 3-hour cut does not come out. That's a loss to cinema.
Yeah.
This is the Justice League. This is pop entertainment. There is no themes, there is no depth, there's no deeper than what you see on the screen. That is it. There's no deep philosophical meaning to it. There's no politics. There's nothing in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's a greasy cheeseburger. It tastes really good, but there is no nutritional value to it at all. And I'm not saying every film has to be that way. I mean, like,
sure.
The Crank movies are the same way. The Crank movies, in their own way, there's no nutritional value in them at all.
Right.
But they have an energy to them. There's a ferocity to them. There's a style. Like, you can see, like, the pure id of the filmmakers behind it.
Yeah.
This is, like, overlong, and I'm going to use a word I usually don't use, over pretentious. Like, the musical choices, the overuse of slow motion, the constant, use of score in inappropriate times. It feels like Zack Snyder putting all his cards on the table and just saying, like, this is what's going on in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. To answer your earlier question, different cinematographers. Also,
yes.
I didn't know Junkie XL dropped his DJ name for the Snyder Cut and just goes by his actual name, Tom Holkenborg. Interesting to me. I want to look into that more to figure out why. I thought that was a little curious.
I think that the score for the film, like, from him, is fine. It's acceptable. It's better than BVS, where it's just like screaming and slamming guitars and drums all the time. It's pulled back. It's restrained a little bit more.
Yeah.
When it needs to be emotional, it's emotional. When it needs to be rough, it gets rough. It's appropriate.
Every time they hit me with that Superman and Lois themed little piano ditty that Hans Zimmer did in the first Man of Steel, every time that pops up, I'm like, damn, this is some good fucking music. It's so simple, but it's so good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Gearing up to go to battle scene was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
That's a good moment. Great there. Good. Please put it in a better movie.
Yeah. When I brought up the difference in color correcting, the Whedon cut, the blacks are actually gray in comparison to the Snyder cut. It's that bad. Like, it is really desaturated.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. Byron, final thoughts on the film?
So the only review score I care about is, would you watch this again for study? Would you watch this again for fun? The answer is like no for both.
Yeah.
So I had a good time, but I'm never going to see this again. So that's really what you need to know.
Jesse, you said something similar, actually.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the Suicide Squad problem. When you know where it's going, which is nowhere, why would you want to watch it again? Unless you're that hardcore DC fanboy that just wants to see your favorite characters on the screen again. Like the opening 3 chapters of this movie are an immense slog because you know they're just going to end up at that power plant.
Yeah.
Like, there's no narrative thrust. There's no weight to anything in the opening chapters. It's just very, very dull. You know?
I do like,
but I will take dull over actively irritating me, like BBS.
For sure, yeah. That's one I probably won't revisit. And actually, that's a good thing we didn't bring up. I don't want to overextend this section because I know you have a lot to pitch, but I know you know how to pace it. The difference between the ultimate cut of BVS and the Snyder cut of Justice League, you can tell one is a studio saying you need to cut your movie down, you have to do it, you don't get a choice. And then the other is a studio actively working against the vision of a director. Wherever you land on his vision, it's not for everybody. I get that. I think, to me, I very much prefer his vision of what was going to happen here. He respects the science, the explanations. There's character development. I can tell that, like, his ultimate cut of BVS is extra long, but it answers questions of things that got cut out poorly, versus this, which is like, oh, these are almost 2 different movies besides the beginning and end points.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, they are different movies. I will give them credit for that.
Yeah.
But I would say that it really just doesn't make too much of a difference to me because I'm not as emotionally invested in any way.
Sure.
If you are not emotionally invested with the previous movies, this is not going to change anything for you.
I do regret one cut, something that was added to Whedon's version and not in this, and that is Batman using fear to trap a parademon. That is like the most Batman scene that has ever Batmaned, and I really like that.
It felt like it was out of the '89 film.
100%. I was like, this is a good time. I like that scene. But after seeing this cut, apparently the fear was never part of it, and that's really interesting. How much they stress that in Whedon's cut, and then it's not even a thing in Snyder's cut.
No, not even there.
There's weird differences between them that, like, I think needs further investigation. So I'm going to differ with Byron on that one. I think for study purposes, I will likely watch this one or two more times. For enjoyment, I got my enjoyment on the first watch. It was a fun experiment. I was on the roller coaster ride. I disagree with the reviewer that says that this is what Martin Scorsese was talking about when he said that superhero movies should be cinema and not roller coaster rides.
Oh, shut up!
That was
This is a very slow roller coaster ride.
It's the haunted house coaster, where it slowly takes you through.
Yes, it's the haunted house coaster. Yes, that's what it is.
Does that mean you kill yourself at the end? God damn it. Jesse, I'm interested your final thoughts and recommendations before we go to a break.
If you love DC's movies at this point, if you love Zack Snyder, yeah, this is going to do it for you, but it's the best of all of his DC movies, but that's still not saying I want to watch it again.
Do you think it's the best of his films in general?
No, I'd say Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, I always forget that's up his sleeve.
I always forget he was still under a studio's thumb, saying
right.
just make this.
I always forget that because I always go back to like Watchmen or 300, and like I don't think 300 has aged well at all.
No, especially not when you hear that U.S. military soldiers were actually forced to watch that movie before the invasion of Iraq to gear them up to go shoot brown people in the desert.
That is horrifying.
Yeah, they did it. It's called image training. Child soldiers are made to do that in African nations. They make them watch Hollywood action movies to gear them up to go out and kill people. Our own U.S. military did this.
Humans were a mistake. Let's walk it back. I'm okay with being monkey again.
I like turtles.
I don't. Yeah, let's take a break. I need a break after that. To be honest, that's awful.
I like turtles.
Jesse, just to set up what you are about to do here, you're going to introduce how many films in your pitch?
8.
Oh boy. There will not be 8 pitches worth. I promise this won't take 8 hours.
No, because there's not enough content for me to work with, so I'm just going to say them off, and I'll have a bit of explanation for some of them.
And I like this idea because if you're listening to this episode, you can pitch us these movies on Twitter or on our Discord or on our Gmail. If they become similar enough to another movie, maybe we can turn it into a full Film Rescue episode. I think that would be really fun. Because you're going to do a Darkseid movie. You're going to do a Cyborg movie.
No, but I am doing a Mr. Miracle movie.
Holy shit. There's like at least 2 people that listen to this episode that go, I have the pitch. I'm ready for this one.
This isn't going to be like BVS or Man of Steel where I go scene to scene to scene because I don't have enough content to work with.
Yeah.
I don't have enough. I have enough to really get you through to the end, and that's it.
Can I be honest? I don't want anyone to like feel let down because this is like outside of our control. I'm a little pissed off that this movie didn't suck. Like this episode would have been so much different if the Snyder Cut sucked.
And honestly, I'm on the same page because I actually did listen to the BVS episode. My God, was I drunk and angry. I would like to actively apologize to anybody that has to endure that. I am sorry. I still stand by the pitch. This what I'm about to pitch today is a kind of pseudo sequel to that. But I will say they are angry, and I will not do that again because I don't have the energy for it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe the happy ending is that it was an improvement, and now there's nothing for anyone to talk about. It's like when weed gets legalized. It's like, okay, now potheads can just shut up.
Yeah, but you know what's coming next, right?
I know. Revive the Snyderverse. I've seen the hashtag.
I actually went to Third Eye Comics, my local comic shop today, and DC Comics had covers for the Zack Snyder Justice League on top of issues that had nothing to do with this. It was like, Teen Titans and Swamp Thing, just like with covers for the Snyderverse. And I'm like,
oh, wonderful.
Why are you guys doing this?
Comics were also a mistake.
I'm starting to believe it.
I think this is where we take a break.
Yeah, I need a break.
We will be back after a word from one of our friends.
Hello, all you kings, queens, and those in between. Friend of the Film Rescue Show, Paresh Maharaj here. You've probably heard me on the Bohemian Rhapsody and Pacific Rim Uprising episodes. And hey, if you liked what you heard there, I have some good news. I have my own podcast. It's called Busted Limes, where me and my co-host Black Belt and the occasional guest discuss all things nerdy, be it superhero movies, kaiju, anime, video games, you name it. We're available on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. So, what are you waiting for? Come bust a lime with us.
Welcome back to the show. We're discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know I said I wouldn't call it that, but I'll at least give him that respect when I'm announcing the name of the movie.
We gotta call it something.
Right. The Snyder Cut, as it's colloquially known on Twitter. Jesse, you're I just for a second want to tap into your introduction to Film Rescue. So initially, I thought you were going to join the show as a guest to pitch Man of Steel. There was a communication error, and we ended up talking about Star Trek.
2009 Star Trek, yes.
Which I enjoyed very much, and love to know that that's a point of relationship between us. We both love and hate Star Trek, as one does.
So it's a committed relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Why do you think he calls me Jesse boyfriend? So,
Exactly. There's so many Jessies in my life. I have to differentiate them by my relationship to them. Then from there, your big claim to fame with the show was the Man of Steel pitch, which skyrocketed our views and was the reason that we brought you on as a host.
Wasn't it at like 300% retention rate or something like that at one point?
Like people listening back over it, and then you doubled down and you did BVS for 5 hours, which is still our number 2 episode to date.
What's number 1?
Jack Packard's X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh, I can see that. I understand.
Yeah, and only because he, put it out to all of his fans and they loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, insane, but you've been building this trilogy from Man of Steel to BVS into Justice League. You've been correcting Zack Snyder's mistakes, and now you have your most ambitious pitch, I think, that I've heard so far, that I set up a little bit at the beginning. I'm going to throw to you. It is now your show. How do we get to Justice League, and what are you going to do with it?
Well, we're going to do it like the studio that did it correctly across the street, like Disney did it. So we can't just jump to Justice League. You have to build this. The characters have to get their own individual movies before you actually cross them over. You have to build these relationships. You have to build these characters. And so the films that I have decided to pitch before they do this, these are movies that take place after my BVS pitch. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The New Gods, Mr. Miracle, Zatanna, Green Lantern Corps, Cyborg, Flashpoint, and then finally, the one that has never really been done in the DC universe, Darkseid gets his own movie.
Oh, shit.
Young Darkseid origin film. The Mr. Miracle film will bring back Orion from the tag at the end of the BVS pitch, where he's imprisoned on Apokolips.
Love it.
It will become a escape movie, a prison escape movie with Highfather on New Genesis. They're basically the war between New Genesis and Apokolips. Highfather hires scot-free Mr. Miracle to sneak onto Apokolips and rescue Orion. Those two are
Tango and Cash in
brothers.
space.
Yes, those two are. I think they're brothers, as far as I'm aware.
Interesting.
No, they're the kids that were traded. There's like a uneasy alliance between the two planets.
Okay.
And they trade children over to one another in order to maintain a peace. So Mr. Miracle went over to Apokolips and became imprisoned, and Orion went over to Highfather on New Genesis and became part of that group.
Interesting.
And so basically, Scot-Free is hired to go in there and get Orion out. We get a lot of backstory and setup for Granny Goodness and the Furies.
Hell yeah.
The Darkseid film is a solo movie that will be about his backstory, and this is completely different from the books because I just can't abide by bad guy. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I have to give him depth. I have to. So everybody kept saying in JD's chat, yeah, it'd be really great if they did a rework on him, gave him more depth. And you know what? So hell with it. I'm going to do it. So here it is. Here's the Darkseid movie that we all deserve. He was the child that was exchanged to Apokolips by Highfather years ago. He is Highfather's son.
Ah.
He grew up in the pits of Apokolips, and that's where he met his entire group of people. Granny Goodness, Desaad, and Steppenwolf. All the things where it's like Steppenwolf is his uncle, throw that out the window. I don't need that. They set the stage for a coup against the ruling class and overthrow them.
So he's Bane from Dark Knight Rises.
Sort of. But unlike where in this film he's behaving like the Hulk, which I don't like, when the leader of Apokolips asks Usyk, that is Darkseid's name before he became Darkseid, the leader of Apokolips says, "What do you really want?" And Usyk just says, "More." And he shoots him in the head.
Oh, shit.
Now he is in charge and claims the throne for himself, but instead of freeing the people, because he grew up in the pits of Apokolips and only knows misery, pain, and death, he becomes even worse. He's now in charge of the throne and creates an even more despotic rule and craves even more power, vowing to overthrow Highfather. His goal throughout the extended universe is to absorb the essences of the old gods so he can grow stronger. Basically, he's Highlandering across the universe.
Ah, okay. I like that.
He just wants more. More is what he wants. Essentially, he's angry and abused and hell-bent on causing as much pain as possible. If I can't be happy, no one can.
Gotcha.
So the book inspiration is a book by Robert Heinlein called The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. Have you read this?
I have not.
It's basically about a coup that happens on a despotic colony on the moon, but the people that take over are even worse. It's pretty good, yeah. Basically, it's Dread 2012 crossed with God of War.
Okay.
Fight your way all the way to the top and claim the throne. That's it.
I like that.
The whole movie takes place inside of one tower. It's him and Granny Goodness and Desaad fighting their way to the top.
That's a good mix.
Yeah.
This film paints him as a hero, but we know later on he's going to go bad.
Right.
Yeah. He becomes Joseph Stalin. Stalin did what he did because he was bullied and treated like shit as a child, and growing up when he gained more power and lashed out at anybody that would question him, down to the point where he would literally erase people from photographs and pretend they didn't exist.
Wow.
That actually happened. Stalin did that.
Yes.
He literally did that. So, yeah, that is my version of Darkseid. He is Joseph Stalin. He just wants more.
Love it.
He's not just a bad guy. There's a reason. He was abused as a child, and all he knows is how to cause pain.
Right.
How about that for a backstory? It's different from Thanos.
Love it.
Yeah, it's something. So this first film in the whole series is shows the beginning of the new war that happens between New Genesis and Apocalypse. Highfather, this is the first of the Justice League movies. So all of these setup films, once we get to the Darkseid movie, that's where it's all set up, and it comes back, and now we get our first Justice League film.
Let me cut in here just for a quick second. Again,
Yes.
Jesse's pitched 2 great backups. He mentioned 8 films total. So if you would like to pitch any of these to us, please do. I think it would be a really good time. We have a Discord down in the description. You can hit us up on Twitter at Film Rescue Show. We also have old school email at filmrescueshow@gmail.com. So if you want to pitch us your version of any of these movies building up to Jesse's Justice League, this is your opportunity. Back to you, Jesse.
Yeah, actually, I think I actually was 9 because the Darkseid film is actually a 9th film.
Oh, hell yeah.
But anyways, like 9, 8, 9, whatever. You're getting a really big universe here.
Right.
So this first film shows the beginning of a new war between New Genesis and Apocalypse. Highfather, exhausted of resources, seeks out the heroes of Earth and calls for aid. The heroes team up with the new gods, so that's like Orion and that whole team. Like they're there. Mr. Miracle is there. The heroes team up with the new gods to defeat Darkseid and his minions, but throughout all the films, Darkseid's minions have been slowly retrieving mother boxes across the universe, giving them a hefty advantage. During their first battle on New Genesis, Darkseid uses the fight as a distraction, while members of his team head to a mostly unprotected Earth to steal the final mother box piece, which is embedded in the body of Cyborg.
Ooh.
So it's not just the box that they want him. The heroes receive a distress call from Earth informing them that a secret invasion has begun. The heroes decide to split up, with many heading back to Earth to quell the invasion. Superman, Batman, and Mr. Miracle stay behind to continue the support of Highfather. The battle continues on Earth and Apocalypse. Eventually, the heroes halt the invasion. On Apocalypse, things are not faring very well. Darkseid is winning and using the power of the Mother Box and his Omega Beams to disintegrate all the individuals around him.
Huh.
And eventually, Darkseid disintegrates Batman.
Oh, fuck.
He kills him. Superman, enraged, lashes out, but is beaten down by the opposition. Now a prisoner of Darkseid, Superman is forced to hear the anti-life equation by Darkseid's daughter, Grail.
Ooh.
In conjunction with the anti-life equation, Darkseid also uses not a mother box, but a father box, filling Superman's mind with images of rage, anger, pain, and fear. And thus, Superman's suit begins to color shift to black, and he becomes a minion of Darkseid. Mr. Miracle, desperate and not knowing what to do, escapes through a boom tube to parts unknown.
Shit.
Back on Earth, the heroes prepare to return to Apocalypse, but suddenly, evil Superman and Darkseid's minions appear through a boom tube. Overmatched and overpowered, the heroes fall back to the Hall of Justice in Washington, D.C. One by one, heroes fall. Eventually, Cyborg is the only one left standing. Eventually, everyone has either died or run away. I even had this idea of like Harley Quinn holding Poison Ivy after she's been shot dead in the street.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like, or like Oliver Queen getting gunned down in Black Canary is just watching his like head explode. I mean, if you're gonna go R-rated, go all in with it right here at the end of the movie.
Put all the chips in.
Put all the chips in. Cyborg tries to put up a fight, but is beaten by Superman and dragged away through a boom tube back to Apocalypse. The remaining heroes on Earth see several boom tubes open up, and out comes a parademon invasion. On Apocalypse, Darkseid and company torture Cyborg into combining several mother and father boxes together, which will empower Darkseid with a locator ability to find any remaining mother box pieces throughout not just that universe, but all universes.
Oh.
This is not just this universe, it's all 52 DC universes. Cyborg is tortured by being trapped in a suspension field, and his body parts are chopped off with a giant pair of scissors like in Jodorowsky's Dune.
Jesus.
Superman watches as his friend is tortured, We can almost see his humanity struggling to get out as tears run down his face, but he can't fight against the will of Darkseid. You could even maybe have it that Dassad's not torturing him, but it's Superman that's cutting off his limbs, but he can't stop. If you really want to go dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very dark.
End of the yes. End of the film is a montage of the invasion set to the song "Cornflake Girl" by Noah Hawley and Jeff Russo from the Legion soundtrack. Use that version of Cornflake Girl. Trust me, it fits.
Yeah.
It really does fit. I used a lot of Legion soundtrack in this movie because I was listening to the Legion soundtrack while I was at work. So, heroes retreat and die as city after city falls to Darkseid. Wonder Woman, who has been leading the Earth defense, falls to her knees before an overbearing power of Darkseid's forces. Darkseid sits upon his throne, Superman to his left, Granny Goodness to his right. He stares into the camera and grins. After credit scene, Mr. Miracle reappears and quietly steals one of Darkseid's mother boxes. He is seen by parademons and quickly opens a random boom tube with no real destination. He lands in the bayou of Louisiana, and out of the bayou comes Swamp Thing.
Oh, shit.
To be continued, Swamp Thing will return. I could have him end with saying, "What are you doing in my swamp?"
God damn it.
I could do it, but I don't want to. Between the release of Apocalypse War and Gods Among Men, which is the second movie, we get the solo Swamp Thing film based upon much of the Alan Moore material. We need that to build to the finale. And here's another thing I changed. Tom Holkenberg, you're fired. Musical composers. For the Planet of New Genesis, Bear McCreary, who did the soundtrack for Battlestar Galactica and Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Apocalypse, Paul Leonard Morgan, because of the Dread 2012 soundtrack.
I love it.
Listen to the Dread 2012 soundtrack and just think about Apocalypse walking down that hallway at the end of the movie. Oh, that fucking slaps, dude. That's the way to do it. Here's the second film, called Justice League Gods Among Men. We open on Mars with General Zod serving out his prison term in a mine. He is given a set of low-grade kryptonite chains around his neck, wrists, and ankles to dampen his abilities. He's been growing stronger between the films because he's adjusted to the Martian gravity. So this is like years down the line. So he didn't have powers in Man of Steel, but because time has gone by, he has adjusted. So he's slowly been getting stronger. Suddenly, parademons arrive through a boom tube. In the chaos, Zod is able to subdue the guards and remove his restraints. As the battle rages on, Zod flies through the boom tube and ends up on Apocalypse. He is confronted by Steppenwolf and says, "My name is General Zod, and I'm worth more to you than alive than dead." Which is what Che Guevara said when he was captured during the end of his time. "My name is Che Guevara, and I'm worth more to you alive than dead."
Interesting.
Cue title card, Justice League Gods Among Men. And then the next title card, 6 months post-invasion. Earth is in ruins. Pockets of survivalist groups with B, C, and D-list heroes like Kite Man are all that's left. You wanted Kite Man in the movie? There he is. Basically, the world is much like the future of the Terminator. Humanity hanging on by a thread. Harley Quinn leads the Suicide Squad and looks like Tank Girl. Calendar Man has the ability of premonition, so they use him to help predict enemy attacks and move before the parademons strike. And yes, Kyle Chandler is Calendar Man.
Yes!
You're welcome, Seth. You wanted it, you got it.
This happened in the DMs. I needed my crossover to early edition. That's all. I just needed that.
You're welcome, you got it. Darkseid has been slowly seeking out pockets of humanity and enslaving them. Superman serves by his side, but is also a pet of Zod. He is constantly humiliated and emasculated, Zod even going so far as to use him as a footrest while Superman is on all fours. Superman is aware of what is happening, but cannot help himself but be a slave to Darkseid. Darkseid has decided that after Earth is enslaved, Mars is next. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and The Flash have all continue to keep moving and lead various survival groups around the planet. Wonder Woman has taken a lot of damage, losing a leg and an eye. She also has short hair and looks like Furiosa from Fury Road. And this was Aaron's suggestion. She has a blade attachment for her leg. Her sword also has been shattered, but she keeps the shards in her sheath like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
I love it.
I think it was Aaron said that she have her leg missing, and she recommended I suggested what was it, Kingsman?
Yeah.
Gazelle? Yeah. So basically between movies she studied capoeira. So that's our Amazon warrior now, is that she studied Brazilian dance fighting and dances around with a sword on her leg. You're welcome. One day, an anti-monitor arrives and explains that all existence is under threat. Darkseid is attempting to merge all realities using the Mother and Father boxes, which will create a 0-point event and erase all existence. Nothing will remain. The anti-monitors have no power or authority to shape existence, only observe and document. He tells Diana that the Age of Heroes must come again to save everyone. So this is the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing where the anti-monitors show up like, yeah, we can't do anything, but you guys can.
Right.
Yeah. The film becomes about getting the crew back together as well as bringing in fresh blood. The one who refuses to fight is the Swamp Thing. Mr. Miracle, out of cowardice, has hidden himself away in Louisiana. The ultimate goal is form one last stand against Darkseid and find something powerful enough to stop him. The only things they can come up with are elemental properties such as the Speed Force, the Green from Swamp Thing, and sheer willpower from the Green Lanterns.
Okay.
The Flash, Swamp Thing, and Green Lantern are the three most important needed to fight. 2 out of 3 join immediately. Swamp Thing refuses, stating that the will of a god is to know and never do. Nature will take its course, even if that course is to the end. The heroes leave him disappointed. Then the anti-monitor visits him and states that he could be with his wife again if he fights. So the idea is that Swamp Thing, Abby Arcane from that universe, she's dead. That's our Solo movie before this. Thus setting it up here. All he has to do is join them and fight. Mr. Miracle, the last holdout, tags along, figuring he might as well be useful in some way. Everyone's going to die anyways, he may as well go down swinging. Darkseid is ready to use the anti-life equation on a cosmic scale. Finally, the entire DCEU arrives, ready to fight, and lead the remaining members of the Justice League. Darkseid sent out Superman and Zod together to meet the army. Zod has been granted the same abilities as Superman via Darkseid's manipulation of Mother Box power. The two cause massive devastation and kill several characters. Finally, Mr. Miracle, realizing the one thing he can do, uses his escape artist abilities to get close enough to Superman and use the life equation. It breaks Darkseid's control over him, freeing him from his enslavement. Zod then kills Mr. Miracle. He dies proud to have helped in the fight.
Oh, shit.
Zod, not realizing that Superman is free, says, "For Darkseid." Right then, Superman snaps Zod's neck, killing him. I got it in there. Darkseid, feeling his control lost, screams in rage and sends his entire army to battle the heroes. Begin amazing endgame level CGI bukkake.
There you go.
There it is, right there. Swamp Thing grows to the size of a building and beats down spaceships. Harley Quinn runs onto the field and hits people with her hammer. I even had an idea, like Bane throws her into the air, kind of like Colossus with Wolverine. It's like, and what's it's called? The speed. What is it called? What's that called when Colossus throws Wolverine into the air? What is that called?
Fastball special.
The fastball
there
special. He does that with her, and she swings the hammer in the air, saying, "Harley Quinn, nice to meet you," as she crushes somebody's head. And then Superman heads right for Darkseid. Darkseid hits him again with the anti-life equation, paralyzing Superman. With knowledge of both equations, Superman is free to choose either one. He remembers back to all the best moments of his life as a hero with the Justice League. Darkseid begins the countdown to 0 point. You know the scene in Guardians 2 when Star-Lord is paralyzed by the energy by Ego?
Yeah.
And he remembers back to all those great... Yeah, this is literally that.
Okay. I like it.
Hell, let's even use The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. Fuck it. Superman decides to choose life. He powers up and says, "You shouldn't have messed with my planet and killed my best friend." He launches at Darkseid and flies him up into the atmosphere. The heroes on the battlefield see him rise into the sky with Darkseid. Someone says, "Look, up in the sky." Get it? Kite Man screams, "Hell yeah!" Harley whispers, "Get him, Soups." Superman and Darkseid struggle in the sky. Superman punches Darkseid out of the atmosphere. Cue to a slow motion shot of Superman flying towards us as his suit color shifts from black back to classic blue and red.
Oh, shit.
You want that moment? You got it. Finally, Superman, with a nuke of a punch, blasts Darkseid off into space. He flies back down to try and help, but it's too late. 0 Point has begun. We see reality after reality being wiped from existence. People cower in fear as reality begins to collapse. The Flash, Swamp Thing, and Green Lantern use their powers to create a collective elemental bubble around the mother boxes with Superman and Cyborg inside. Cyborg gives his life to begin to separate the boxes as reality begins to collapse upon Superman. Blink out of existence. Clark awakens in a field on a farm. He's home in Kansas. He sees his father, John Kent, working in the barn. He walks over and they talk. Clark asks, "Am I dead?" John says, "Only if you want to be." You remember the scene in BVS where he talks to his dad on top of a mountain?
Yeah.
I'm putting it here because it's appropriate. He explains that Clark is the last one left. The one being left that can make any choice of what happens next. John asks him what he really wants. Clark says, "For tomorrow to be a better world for everyone." John says, "If there's any man that knows what's best for tomorrow, it's you." They smile at each other and say goodbye. Get it? Man of Tomorrow?
I love it. That's good.
In Final Crisis, the way it ends is literally a 0 Point event, but it ends with him going up to basically a wish machine and just casting a wish. Like, kind of lame. I was like, no, this needs more. This needs more.
Yeah.
Clark wakes up in his bed alone. Everything seems normal. He hears Lois in the kitchen. He goes to her and starts crying tears of joy. Lois doesn't know what he's doing, but he says he'll tell her all about it. The epilogue involves Clark meeting up with all the various heroes and telling them what happened, and they need to form a league, a Justice League, against any future threats. The only one absent, and apparently is just missing, is Bruce Wayne. Batman is nowhere to be found. On a distant planet called Apocalypse, Usyk, a young Usyk, finds a discarded discarded father box, and uses it to open a hush tube, not a boom tube, and he disappears through it, escaping Apocalypse, never to be seen again. Even Darkseid gets a happy ending.
I love it.
Post-credit scene. 50,000 years ago. Cavemen dance around a massive bonfire. They scream and howl in the night. In the distance, we see the new god, Metron, approach one of them. We then see a silhouette of a man in a cave. The man picks up a piece of charcoal from his fire and draws a symbol on the cave wall. It is the symbol of a bat. The end. Thoughts?
Holy shit.
I set up Batman R.I.P.
I love that. Because I have a Batman R.I.P. hanging on the wall. Is that mid credits or post credit sequence?
That's post credit scene.
All right, mid credit.
There's no mid credit scene because everything's done.
I would, if it were me, mid credits in either the White Martians or Starro, just so there's a fun place for the Justice League to go eventually.
Yeah. The one thing I couldn't fit in there because I just didn't know how to do it was Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. Because I set it up for in Man of Steel and BVS. I'm just like, I just don't know what the fuck.
Well, it works too because in the original animated movie, the League already exists when they find out about Martian Manhunter, and he joins the team to help them in that film. Now, the events of the film are a little different, but you could easily do like they find out about Martian Manhunter as the white Martians are showing up, the enslaved race from the inside of Mars.
Yeah,
you easily could set him up in the next movie. I don't think there's a reason for him to be there, especially with Swamp Thing and Miracle Man and other character more.
There's enough already in the movie.
Exactly.
You could have it be like he's back on Mars helping with the imprisonment program, I guess, with the new Kryptonians.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have him there, and then they find the white Martians buried deep in the planet.
I love that.
Maybe that's what the mine is. Maybe that's what they're mining. They're mining down to see if there's anything left. I mean, I just didn't know where else to put him in the story.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like the movie we have now. They didn't know where else to put him in the story.
Exactly.
If you can't figure it out, then just don't put it in.
Yeah. There's no reason to do that. I like it a lot. I like that there's so much behind the characters and their like motivations. Did you mention Lex Luthor? I can't recall if that was.
No. I had an idea about something we could do with Lex Luthor. The idea is that he's paralyzed and he's with the survivalist groups.
Oh, interesting.
I had that idea, like he's tagging along because it's like, well, the world's going to get destroyed. I kind of need the world to survive. I guess I'll hang out with you guys.
Sure.
Maybe he's like the Professor X of the group, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
I did have one idea today as I was driving to the comic shop. One thing I really, really, really wanted to do, it might be in very bad taste, but I want it. So I had the idea that Grail is the one that killed Ivy. And so Harley is really pissed at Grail about that. And so she tracks down Grail with her tank, like Tank Girl, and just corners her. And she mounts the barrel of the cannon of the tank and rides it like a giant cock. And so she just stares at Grail and then just says, "Open wide, bitch, I'm gonna come," and fires a rocket at her and blows her up, and like post-orgasm just goes, "Oh, that felt fucking great."
Jesus Christ.
It's not out of character for her, and it totally fits with the tone of Birds of Prey.
I mean, I can see it. It's a lot. I can see it.
It's a lot, but it would make, I think at this point, 10 movies down the line, you've earned it.
Sure.
Like Batman saying to the Joker, "I will fucking kill you." I don't know if that's earned. I mean, I did kill him in my BVS movie, so
true.
I don't know. I feel like if you've gone this far, you've earned that darkness. Like Infinity War, they kill off half the cast.
Right.
You can get the dark stuff if you wait long enough. So, yeah,
I like it.
That's what I got. That's what I got.
Byron, do you have any thoughts? Anything you like? Anything you want to see?
I like that you've cut it up into chapters of discrete meaning. That doesn't actually happen a lot. I'd even say it doesn't happen in the Marvel movies because they got to do all their tie-ins.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, rather than having 6 parts to draw it out to being 4 hours, like, cut it in half. Like, you gotta, like, one part is the descent and one part is the ascent. Like, that's how you do it. You gotta do it like that. Like, it's too much if you try to shove it all together. You have to cut this up into pieces.
Sure.
Set up New Apocalypse, or set up New Genesis, set up Apocalypse, set up the New Gods, explain how the fuck they tie into this stuff. Because, like, there's, in the movie proper that we have, they're saying words on the screen, but I have no context for what the New Gods even are.
Right.
Like, the flashback scene that Diana tells us could be a movie in and of itself. Why isn't it?
Exactly.
I want that movie first before we go to do this. Like, that would cut out 20 minutes of the runtime, and then you cut out the Cyborg stuff and the Aquaman stuff, and just put those as their own separate movies, and the Flash movie, that cuts down about, like, half the runtime.
Because it's all set up already, exactly.
Because it's all set up already. That's how you do it. You don't need it to be that long. These, like, the 2 movies I've pitched, both 2-hour movies.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't need more than that. Even Endgame, I would say, is a bit too long. So that's my thoughts.
No, I like it.
I think it's a good conclusion for my DC universe. I'm not doing any more after this. Don't even ask me to do Suicide Squad.
Well, because essentially, if you look at the phasing of MCU, Phase 1 and 2 is about 9 to 10 movies, right, overall. And then Phase 3 was like very inflated. There's a ton of movies in there, but there's no reason you can't do Phase 1 and 2 and then lead into an even bigger movie. Like, imagine if the MCU had skipped the first Avengers and did all the movies that lead up to Ultron, and then their first Avengers movie could have been split between Loki and Ultron. Like, you could have done a giant movie where you care about so many things and so many characters, where you don't have to do all of the footwork that the first Avenger does setting up characters, because it's like, no, I saw the other movies. I get this. I understand it.
Yeah, and that's the big complaint about the first Avengers movie, is that the only real threat is just Loki.
Right.
Like, there's no sub-villain.
Right.
Like, it needed to be either Ultron is in charge or Loki is in charge and somebody is an underling. I would say Loki would be the main one that's in charge because he's serving Thanos, and Ultron is kind of like the tough lackey that just really wants to destroy and wreck things.
Right.
That seems like an appropriate place to put that. Put them together, you got a really good movie in there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so you can do one big lead-up Justice League, duo film. You just gotta build to it.
Right.
Because this originally was supposed to be a 2-part film. Like, it was supposed to start out with, the Justice League being formed, and then they descend, and Superman gets taken over by Darkseid, and then they have to fight their way back out of it. Like, that was the plan.
Right.
And all of it got thrown out when the reception to BVS happened, and then the studio said, Justice League's only going to be one movie. Wrap it up in one movie. So we do have 2 movies slammed together into one film currently. So that's what we have.
Do you... I think something that annoys me within the film, either film that we got, was the Unite the Seven. That feels like the perfect metaphor for miscalculating this universe, in that they couldn't even get the number on the poster correct for the amount of Justice League members they had, because it was so undercooked. It was so undercooked. They were like, Unite the Seven. I mean, 6. I didn't say 7.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there's only 6 characters in the Justice League. Like, I think they were trying to say, like, Martian Manhunter's gonna join them eventually at the very end, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
Maybe if he had some character development, I'd actually be able to buy that, but he shows up for 2 scenes and he's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the big come down from building up to the Snyder cut. Honestly, I think this is the best way it was going to work out. I know I've said it in other podcasts. The movie was going to be better. It wasn't going to be life ending. No one needs to cry anymore. They got the movie they wanted, and we're done now. We're done.
Yeah, give it a couple of months. I guarantee no one's going to be talking about this
exactly.
anymore.
Like, you got everything you could have asked for in this cut.
And like I said, like in the previous segment of this show, this would not have been a loss to film history had this movie not been released.
Right.
Like, this isn't Blade Runner. This isn't Brazil. This isn't Kingdom of Heaven. Aaron, you wanted to watch it? Sure, I'll watch it someday. Which is also 4 hours, the director's cut. But it's like, director's visions, they need to have more than just, it's better visual effects. It's all the character stuff that got cut. It's like, thematic elements are more important.
Yeah.
Like, the thematic elements were ruined by the studio with Blade Runner. By tacking on the happy ending, by putting in the voiceover, by not finishing the shooting.
Right.
Like, because there's that shot looking up into the blue sky that thankfully has been cut out and it's gone now. Or Brazil, which was chopped to hell because the studio hated it. The Love Conquers All version of that film that exists. that's like 80 minutes.
Speaking of emaciated filmmaking.
Oh god, that movie is like so just broken. The 80-minute cut, like that's a loss. Thankfully, we do have them, and they are both in Criterion. Isn't Blade Runner Criterion?
I believe so. I don't know. Also, I don't know which cut is Criterion either.
Actually, no, I don't think it is Criterion. I think that's not Criterion.
It should be.
I know that Brazil is a Criterion cut, but yeah, like those are a loss to cinema if they don't get released. This wouldn't have been a massive loss. Like, you wouldn't have been able to see the Justice League. Like, I guarantee 10 years from now, you're gonna get another Justice League movie. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, just sit back and relax, guys. I do think that people of the current generation are taking this stuff a little too seriously and wrapping it too much around their personalities. Like,
well, and rushing things. Like, the MCU slate right now is like 4 movies and 3 series a year.
Yeah. And well, that's also because of COVID. Things got pushed. Like, we're getting 4 movies this year because 2 of them were supposed to come out last year.
But even then, pre-COVID, it was 3 movies lined up. There was a spring, summer, and winter movie.
It's true. You're right.
Plus
yeah.
the series.
It's a machine that doesn't stop.
Right.
But I will say, at least at Disney, there is more quality control. I mean, if you want to say, like, this is a director's vision, like, this is basically Zack Snyder's vision. This is pure id. This is him on screen. Like, this is what's going on in his brain. Yep. Like, if you want to see what Zack Snyder is like, watch these 3 movies, Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League back to back to back. God help you if you do. But if you want to see what his brain is like, that's it. You've got the hardcore tough guy stuff in Man of Steel. You've got the Ayn Randian politics bullshit in BVS. And then you've got the overblown sentimentalism in Justice League. That's his brain. Tough guy, political, sentimental.
Yeah.
That's Zack Snyder. That's him. His movies are him. So I guess in that way, I mean, I am fascinated by him. He is a fascinating filmmaker, even if I don't like any of his movies.
Yeah.
So I am sorry if I come off obsessed with this guy, but it is fascinating to me that people are taking this guy who basically just makes popcorn entertainment so seriously.
Your Zack Snyder is my Richard Kelly. I can't look away, but I know I'm not enjoying myself.
Yeah. I'm not having a good time, but something compels me. I don't know what it is.
We will understand the conundrum of Zack Snyder.
I have heard people say he's a very nice guy, a very nice person.
I believe it. You know, the end of the movie before the credits, the For Autumn mention for his daughter.
There is a mention that this is for his daughter that did die. I guess it's hard for me to really say like the movie really shouldn't exist because it is in memory of his daughter. He got what he wanted. It's for his family, and he didn't take any money for this.
Yeah,
that's the big thing. I will say the movie is allowed to exist because fans got what they wanted. The fans backed it, and this is in memory of his daughter who passed away. So in that regard, sure, fine, it's okay. Like, I'm never gonna watch this again, but I guess it was for the right reasons that the movie got made. He didn't take any profit off of this. So, you know, I mean, if you want just popcorn cinema, that's great. That's all for you. But I think this is the point where I'm just like, I'm over these kinds of movies.
So will you watch Shazam 2 is the question.
If I don't have to pay for it, I guess. If I got a free afternoon. I gotta get, just it is what it is.
Byron, of the movies that Jesse name dropped as the lead up to his hypothetical fix of this, which one would you be most interested in watching, and what were you envisioning when you heard it?
I'm most interested in Darkseid's origin story, because as he was describing the dynamics It felt like a view from the outside of Paul Atreides from Dune, where you have this like savant character that ends up leading a huge destruction through the universe. But instead of like being with him the whole time, you're on the outside being like, oh, who the hell is this? Oh, what the fuck? Oh my god.
I even thought about that while I was doing the setup for the Dark Side movie. I was like, you know what he's kind of like? He's kind of like the Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah.
He doesn't, but like, because my version of Darkseid doesn't get his hands dirty. He doesn't get involved in combat after his origin story. He kind of just sits in the background and lets his minions do everything, which apparently is what he does in the comics. He doesn't go out there and fight himself.
Yeah.
Like, why is the military general jumping to the front line in the battle on Earth 5,000 years ago? Shouldn't he stay at the back? Like, to command? You know, it's a cool shot. Like, that's really it. It's just there for a cool shot. But I did think if he'd be anybody, he'd be the Baron Harkonnen, just like, kind of like pushing the chess pieces across the board. Quick
question on that level. Am I to understand that the anti-life equation is in Themyscira? That the Battle Valley is kind of unclear, but it reminds me the most of Themyscira.
I guess, but if that's the case, then why didn't Steppenwolf notice it the first time when he was there?
Right.
Steppenwolf says it's in everything on Earth. Like the planet itself is the equation.
That sounds like some Michael Bay Transformers Last Night kind of shit. Unicron was in the Earth the whole time?
Wait, Seth, something called the anti-life equation sounds stupid?
No.
Are you kidding?
Wait, let me walk that back real quick. The
driving force of this universe.
Do you guys know what the anti-life equation actually is?
No idea.
So, here it is as summarized in Seven Soldiers, Mr. Miracle from Grant Morrison. So the anti-life equation is stylized in narration as this. Loneliness plus alienation plus fear plus despair plus self-worth divided by divided by mockery, divided by condemnation, divided by misunderstanding, times guilt, times shame, times failure, times judgment equals equals why, where, why hope, N is folly, love equals lies, life equals death, self equals dark side.
So it's basic.
This is fucking stupid.
It's basically the Killing Joke, right? One bad day.
Yeah, it's one bad day distilled down to, a millisecond.
Okay, I'm sorry for this. I just need to go here for a second. Is that the reason why Joker is the key to everything at the end of this movie?
Oh, god damn it!
Because he solved the anti-life equation.
Oh, fucking hell.
Because of one bad day. I want to be wrong, but like I can't find a reason why I am.
Well, yeah, you got to be damaged to figure it out.
I mean, this is kind of why I think that some of these books need a reworking for modern eras. The New Gods are ridiculous. They're just it's so outdated by today's standards, and as a hardcore atheist, I really had a hard time like delving into the backstory of that stuff. I was kind of like, I just don't care.
Yeah,
I have tried to read the Fourth World omnibuses so many times, and I always give up like halfway through.
The whole like idea of what godhood is within superhero movies, it's just like very tough, very strong, very immortal people. That's like it's not gods in any spiritual sense. It's just this very long-lasting, tough, strong person.
You live a long time and you look buff as fuck.
Right.
Yeah, that's not that interesting.
Like, and that's why the comics have to always introduce things like what are the big head, the Watchers and the Celestials and all these like ancient prehistory things, because those are the real gods, but they don't want to call them gods, I guess.
Yeah, the anti-monitors,
right?
The ones that always watch over everything, but they can't get involved. They just observe and report.
Yeah.
But then who the hell made you?
And who do they report to?
Yeah, like who the fuck do you work for? Like and that's part of the problem is what I've always had a problem with DC stuff is that I even noted this when I was talking to JD's chat. I was like, why is this shit so complicated? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I had for my pitches, I just had to boil it down. I was like, 3 things: willpower, the green, the speed force. Done. It's like, give me a thing to answer this problem. That's it.
I like it. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't have to be so complicated. They also mentioned multiverse a lot in the Snyder Cut, and I was like, this is getting sketchy, guys. I don't know how. Like, is the Nightmare universe supposed to be an alternate universe? I don't know. Seems like they prevented it.
Give it about 5 years, we'll find out.
Or will we?
Who knows? I don't care.
I am happy that as of right now, barring a Aquaman repitch, we're done with the DCEU for a little while.
Yeah, I everything else is fine. I mean, the only other one that's could be added to the chopping block is Suicide Squad, but James Gunn did all the work for us, so I don't think we need to do it.
Well, also, I did Suicide Squad in season 1. That was one of my first pitches.
Oh, there you go. Done. We're finished.
Do you know what I did?
What?
It's Die Hard, but the Joker is Hans. That's it.
Yes, perfect.
They invade a building as it's being attacked. It turns out that it's all a big Joker joke. Batman's been distracted away by a fake poison, and that's it. That just keep it simple, stupid. Like, this should be easy.
Perfect. I love it.
I also had a scene for Deadshot where they break a mirror and throw the pieces around the room so that he can snipe out. I think I had Polka Dot Man. It was him or Killer Croc, I forget. Because I split up the Suicide Squad into evil team and good team because having them all against one person is dumb and not useful.
Yeah.
So I had like a scene where he was using mirror shards to shoot people in a room because that's more interesting than a shooting range at a prison. I'm sorry, a shooting range at a prison? That's what we're going with for Suicide Squad?
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I hate that movie.
This movie's 2.5 hours. We got to get going. Got to get through it.
I hate that movie.
That movie actively fucking pisses me off because it's just like it's the ugliest fucking thing.
They get the team together and they redo all the intros for the characters.
So that's where it could have been great. Like if just every sequence or every act they kept reintroducing the characters that were still alive.
Yes.
That movie also has the. Did Zack Snyder choose the music in that movie as well?
No, that's definitely David Ayer.
All the musical choices in Suicide Squad are exactly the same problem as all of Zack Snyder's movies. That all the lyrics to all the songs are very on the nose.
Yeah.
You need to try a little harder, bro.
Do you get it, kids? Do you get it?
Like Cornflake Girl that I chose for mine it's dark. It's a dark version of that song, but it's got this rhythm behind it where you're just like, the lyrics are what are the lyrics to that song?
I don't even know. I know the tune, but like I don't know the lyrics. I'm just like, why isn't there more like Doom soundtrack stuff?
Here it is. So it's basically plays during the time when Cyborg is being violently tortured, and let's say that Superman is the one doing the torturing.
Sure.
The lyrics go like this. This is not really this is not really happening. You bet your life it is. You bet your life it is.
Yeah.
Now play that as you're seeing Superman violently torture one of his best friends and cutting him into pieces and throwing his body into a box.
Right.
Like, that's not as on the nose. It's not like...
Well, it's more open for interpretation anyway.
It's more open for interpretation. Yeah, because it's like... Could this be a parallel reality where things have changed? Like,
well, yeah. Is this in Superman's head or is this in Cyborg's head? You don't know.
Yeah, because he's been hit by the anti-life equation. Is it for real? Is it not? We don't really know.
Versus, we have outlived our gods. Get it? Because Superman's a god and he's dead.
That's funny.
I love it. This has been our dive into the DCEU. We had a time.
Sure did.
We definitely had a time. Byron, thank you for putting yourself through 4 hours of this and jumping in last minute.
Always a pleasure.
Jesse, would you like to let people know where else they can listen to your dulcet voice on the internet?
Well, we have 2 podcasts I work on. We have Split the Difference, where we take an original film, compare it to its remake. And we also have That Weird Ass Game, where we discuss weird, unusual games. That is off season at the moment because I'm working on a TV show in Richmond, but that's coming back very soon.
Woohoo!
If I don't get another job on another TV show. But also we have Palette Cleanser, where we just watch good movies. And I think, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark coming up soon?
That will be likely...
Wednesday.
Yeah, that will be probably not out by the time this one goes up, but it'll be hot on the heels. And definitely on our Patreon at that time.
Exactly, yes. If you want to get in touch with me and discuss my pitch or pitch to me any other DC movie that you want to see, find me on Twitter at HardcoreBshot.
Perfect. And that Patreon that I mentioned is patreon.com/MontresorMedia. Early access to all of our shows, plus a non-public show called So What Else, where we discuss things. I think it might behoove us to do a Snyder Cut episode where we can kind of not have to review it, but just talk about the things around it. That could be a fun time. It's $1 for access. It gives you access to our entire library, as well as extended cuts and, like I said, early access. It supports us in getting us into an office space and converting all this shit to YouTube. I mean, it'll still be here, but you'll also be able to see us. I guess that means I have to start wearing pants for podcast, doesn't it?
Well, no, just don't show anything below the waist.
Oh yeah,
Fine.
that's
Don't stand up. There's your solution. Don't stand up.
I think I'm assuming there will also be people in the room, which is why I would need the pants.
Yeah, good point.
I've been by myself in the basement for over a year. Thanks, guys.
Almost. I'm going to get my vaccine hopefully next month.
I'm in phase 3 in Maryland, so mine will probably be mid-April, but gunning for it.
Yeah, a friend of mine, my friend Kaylee, she got her, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and she said that for 20 hours she felt like absolute shit, and she was like, oh, I feel fine now.
Hey, I'll take that. If that's the...
Slept all day, drank like 4 liters of water, but she just felt like crap, and then one day she's like, oh, I feel good. Yeah, I'm good now.
If that's the price of going back to the movies, I will take it.
I want to see Dune in a theater, damn it.
I feel like we'll get to that. Isn't that a good thought? We might actually get to see
God.
Dune in a theater.
Thank you. Thank you, Daddy Biden. Thank you.
What a feeling. What a release. I think that's going to do it for this episode. Jesse, I just want to very genuinely thank you for putting yourself through so many Zack Snyder movies to arrive
Don't
here.
You dare ever ask me to fix Sucker Punch. Don't you ever say it.
Would you watch it if I was going to fix it?
No. Eat my ass. No.
I really
That's
don't.
okay, Jesse. You're gonna sign on for Guardians of Gahul?
Oh no.
The Owl movie.
The Owl movie. Nobody even remembers that movie.
Didn't it do like gangbusters at the box office though?
Well, because it's basically a kids movie,
Yeah.
so everyone was like, "Yeah, fine, whatever."
So
It's
you're
Owls
saying
of the Ring.
wait.
Yeah, it's basically just Lord of the Rings.
So you're saying you're out for Army of the Dead? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm out.
I will watch
Please don't.
anything with Dave Bautista in it.
I do like one thing that he did with that film, which is that he digitally deleted Chris D'Elia from the film and put in.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Tig Notaro.
Yeah, what was it? Replace him with Tig Notaro. That's good choice.
Hey, good
choice.
Good guy Zack Snyder.
And thank you for taking out the zombie rape, please.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't need that either.
For those that don't know, that was a thing. The zombies wouldn't just kill you and eat you; they would rape you. Thank you for taking that out. That's fucked up and weird. Please don't do it.
Don't need that at all. And one last thank you. I just want to say thank you to Craig for sticking around the entire time this time.
Wouldn't it be funny if he just bailed right now?
I would just stop recording. This is what would happen. Craig, you stuck it out. Maybe Craig just likes Zack Snyder movies. Maybe that's the issue.
Craig really wanted to hear what I had to say.
Craig funded
Thank
the
you,
Snyder cut.
Craig funded the Snyder cut.
He had to bail to go raise money to get this movie onto HBO.
I can totally buy that, yeah.
Oh, man. I love that Craig is our in-universe shitting post now.
Shit post Craig.
Now recording. However, we're not recording. This is the end of the show. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening, and good night.
And justice for all. I told Mike Spielman about a lot of this. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, do it. Like, I got Mike to say yes to what I did.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like, so if I got Mike to say that it's good, yeah, that means I did something right.
Well, and then he watched the movie and he loved it and doesn't want it to change.
Ugh. Of course. Well, too bad.
There's two sides of the internet, and both I understand, and I understand why they don't operate together well. However, I think that's a big loss because there's the RLM cynical but funny, everything sucks, but that's kind of the joke thing. And I enjoy that very much, and you tend to fall into that kind of camp, and that's why I like.
And I get it. It's a joke. Like they're not miserable people,
right?
They're just like the image that they use for their Rogue One commentary track on Bandcamp is an image of a dead horse.
Right?
Do you get it? Beating a dead horse, like it's a joke.
Right?
You get it?
And
people want this stuff.
And then there's the side of the internet that's like, mute and block anyone you don't agree with and live your most happy life and, do you. You don't owe anyone else that. And I get that as well. There are some people that I'm like, yeah, fuck off, dude. I don't care about your cynical, awful thoughts. However, I think that the reality is somewhere in between the two, that you can't just silence people because you disagree with them, but also you can be mad and upset about things and hate things that people like, and that's also fine, as long as you're not hating them for liking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can disagree. I mean, I just read this post. Let me find this post again. Let me find it real quick.
People like you who don't like The Last Jedi, I get it. But you're not actively bullying the actors into deleting their Instagram because you didn't like the movie. And that's a big difference to me.
Yeah, here's the quote from a friend of mine. You don't get to love something and hate the people it came from. That's important. And then somebody beneath it just says, but Harry Potter, though. There is a reason both sides are allowed to exist.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and also, our audience in general is kind of split in that, a lot of our audience came from, the Patrick Willems and Nando side of YouTube, and then we also have had, JXE and other people like that on the show, because I'm not going to shy away from dissenting opinions as long as they're not actively being shitty. I hate this movie because it's using a racially diverse or sexually diverse cast. It's okay, I don't give a fuck about your opinion. But if it's
yeah, but that's what I've been feeling the last 2 days. I feel like I'm alone in a crowd because I just watched the damn thing and I'm like, guys, this isn't good. And I'm talking about legitimate problems. The plot is drawn out to 4 hours. The pacing's terrible. It's overindulgent. And everyone's like, no, it's perfect. It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my God, I just came 3 times. And I'm just like, am I just getting too old for this shit? Am I just reaching that point where these movies just don't do it for me anymore?
It's a 90-minute plot stretched over 4 hours of character development, and I like that experiment, and I would go as far as saying this version is good. It is definitely
it's flabby, it's long, but overall it is functional.
Yeah,
it is a functional film, but his style doesn't do it for me. So that's really that's the difference here. I will acknowledge it is a functional movie, therefore it's like a 5 out of 10. But any more beyond that is whether you like his style or not. I don't.
Yeah,
I do not like overuse of slow motion.
I would go as far as a 7, only because I've seen the good and the bad of the Avengers movies, and I'm like, this is more functional than at least one Avengers movie I can think of.
Very true.
Looking at you, Age of Ultron, which I love.
It ain't no Infinity War.
Yeah. I really thought they were going to go there. I thought the movie was going to just straight up diverge and have the heroes fail at the end, and that was going to be the...
You should say that.
If that was going to be the cliffhanger to a movie that doesn't get a sequel, I was going to be like, holy shit, Zack, okay, you went there.
I mean,
it could happen.
Maybe they'll entice him to come back. Who knows?
I guess we'll see how many HBO subscriptions this nets them, and then they'll change their tone.
I think there was a Gizmodo article that came out before this movie dropped, and it said, this isn't about satisfying the fans. This is about getting HBO subscriptions.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Absolutely.
Like, they want people to show up for HBO Max because the sales were doing well but not great, and so they wanted them to do great. They want to compete with Disney. So there you go.
Well, and that's why they stacked up Godzilla and Mortal Kombat as the next 2 movies over the next 2 weeks.
They want people to watch them.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Like, I mean, we're going to be watching them. It's fine. Oh, by the way, I did watch Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I have not heard head nor tail about it on Twitter, and that concerned me.
Well, here's a positive. It's an actual 40-minute episode, not 20 minutes and 10 minutes of credits.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, holy shit. It's actually, I mean, the first episode's all set up. But it's good. I enjoyed it. It's very different from WandaVision. It's well shot. It looks good. It's got great style to it. I mean, for a TV show, the visual effects, holy shit, fucking amazing.
Interesting.
And I will say I like the new Cap that they've got into the show. It's played by Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
I can see that.
Jack liked it too.
U.S. agent is played by Wyatt Russell.
He looks like I think he's a good looking guy, but he's not like historically, superhero good looking. So
he's not classically handsome.
Yeah, so he passes as like evil Captain America really well.
Well, that's the point. He's meant to be that.
Yeah.
So he's meant to be if Captain America is the let's go get 'em boys pre-World War II mentality, the U.S. agent is the hey, what the fuck you looking at post-World War II mentality.
Homelander versus Superman.
There you go. That's it. It's Homelander versus Superman.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll check. That's only going to be 6 episodes, right? That's a shorter.
Yeah, it's a shorter show because it's longer episodes.
Huh. Maybe I'll actually jump on the bus and watch it week to week.
It's genuinely good. I actually quite enjoyed it.
Interesting.